Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have a brand new phone that I'm filming with. I have the iPhone 13 now and I was filming on iPhone 8 before. So if the lighting or whatever is a bit weird or the focus or anything, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure this out. This new phone is really awesome. And as you can see in the background, I have my puppy. He's being a bit crazy. Ranger, come here. Can you come say hi? Can you all see him? Come on, Minch. Yeah, good boy. So this is Ranger. He is a 17-week-old German Shepherd puppy. I know I've talked about him before in my previous videos, but this little guy is why I've had the fan and stuff on in previous videos. So he's gonna be hanging out with me here. Hopefully he doesn't make too much noise, but it's not his bedtime yet. And I was like, I don't really wanna have to worry about putting the fan back on and everything. So he's gonna hang out here and hopefully he doesn't get too annoying with the squeaking. He might get a little antsy because I'm sitting here, but I don't know, we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and get into this video. Sorry again if the lighting, I'm trying to figure out. I lost a contact and I don't have any more coming just yet, so I gotta wear the glasses. Hopefully the lighting isn't too bad on that. And let's just go ahead and get started on this massive book haul that I have. Okay, so technically this isn't like all my birthday haul, but I do have a few books that I got, well, as like an early birthday present. So my boyfriend, super sweet, knew I was having a really hard time mentally and emotionally and like physically. I've just been really drained the past few months. And so when I went to visit him in the middle of October, my birthday is on the 27th, and I saw him like the weekend before. He surprised me by being like, hey, let's go to Half Price Books and you can go ahead and pick out whatever you want. And I was like, really? So my boyfriend's not a reader, so for him to be like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and spend time with you at the bookstore and let you pick out a couple books, it was like, my heart, it made me so happy. So I'm considering that kind of like an early birthday haul because it kind of was like an early birthday present. And he actually, it's funny, he actually did pick out a couple of these books for me. First one actually he picked out, and that would be the Mammoth Book of Wolfman, the Ultimate Werewolf Anthology by various authors, and this is edited by Stephen Jones. So I am a huge werewolf person. I like vampires and stuff like that, but werewolves are where it's at for me. And so when he saw this, he was like, hey, check this book out. I'm normally not a short story person. I don't like anthologies. I don't like short stories for the most part, but I mean, it's werewolves. So I was like, yeah, are you a werewolf? You're acting like a crazy werewolf, huh? So I had to pick this one up, and the first one he made me read out of this to him. It's a story called Boobs, and it's by Susie McGee Carnes. So yeah, I had to read him the Boobs story. I just thought that was hilarious. He's like, boobs, you gotta read that to me. So I did. The next one that he picked out for me is The Word Murder by Anthony Horowitz. I think I've heard of this author before, but I don't remember. This one, he also picked this one out because he saw it and he was like, that sounds cool. Basically, it says, a woman crosses a London street. It's just after 11 a.m. on a bright spring morning, and she's going into a funeral parlor to plan her own service. 6 hours later, the woman is dead, strangled with a crimson curtain cord in her own home. And then it's basically about a disgraced police detective trying to figure out what happened. And that honestly sounded freaking amazing to me. And since he picked it out, I was like, sure, I'll pick this one up. The next book I found is actually one that I have been wanting to get for a long time, and that's Soul Hunter by Melanie Wells. This is book 2 in the Day of Evil series, and I can't tell you what this one's about because it's a sequel, but the first one is about a psychiatrist who goes back to work after the summer and really strange paranormal things start happening to her. It's kind of a horror. I think it's classed as fiction suspense, but I think it has like elements of horror in it because it reminds me of kind of like Amityville Horror with The Conjuring, very paranormal, demonic stuff going on in her life, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. Is this a person? Is this a spirit? Is this the like demons? And it's kind of like her walk to like find her faith, or to, I can't remember if she like has to find her faith again or if she like discovers her faith through this. I don't know, but it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I talked about it in my like spooky Christian books video, which will be up here. Yeah, this is book 2. I've been looking for this for a long time. I found it at Half Price Book and I was like, yes, I'm picking this one up. The next book is one that I think might be by a local author because they had a bunch of her books there or their books there. It's signed, which is cool, and it's indie published or self-published. Honestly, I'm not sure which one. That would be True Ghost Stories, Dreadful Demonic Entities by Eve S. Evans. And like I said, it's signed and all, and they had a whole bunch of this author's books there, so I don't know if they're local to Boise or if it's just half price books, because it did say that they were only found at half price books. So that's this one. The next book I have is a nonfiction, and I saw it and I like flipped out and was like, okay, I have to have this book. Like, I have to have this book. It's a book that talks about one of my all-time favorite fandoms to ever exist, and that is both in book form and movie form, and that is Jurassic Park, The Science of Jurassic Park and the Lost World, or How to Build a Dinosaur. Oh, there we go. Maybe if I sit back here more, it'll focus on the book. And this is by Rob DeSalle and David Lindley. And this book, y'all, I like squealed when I saw this, because anything Jurassic Park is like, yes, I want it all. I want everything related to Jurassic Park, everything related to the dinosaur world, everything related to this fandom. And this is basically a book going over the science, like it says, of the movies, whether or not this could happen. If it were to happen, like how in real life would this work? Michael Crichton, I can never say his freaking name right, even though he's one of my favorite authors. I always forget how to pronounce his last name. The man who wrote Jurassic Park was a scientist himself. And so his books are very science heavy because he knows what he's talking about. And so this one, it just says like, how likely is it that you could extract dinosaur DNA from a mosquito that had lived at least 65 million years ago and had the misfortune, just seconds after it had indulged itself in a tasty swig of dinosaur blood, to be completely embalmed, preserved in amber dripping from a nearby tree. So yeah, it's basically like very scientific. I don't think it's very scientific in the sense of like dense. I think it's like layman's term science, but it definitely dives into the science of the movies and the books, and that is so exciting to me. And on the cover, it has a little embossed mosquito. When I saw this book, I was just like, I don't care, it's mine, it's coming home with me, because I love Jurassic Park so much, so much. The next one is, I found it and I was like, this is so relevant, so I'm picking this one up. And that would be The Art of Raising a Puppy, Complete and Revised Edition by the Monks of New Skeet. I don't know who the Monks of New Skeet are, but apparently they are dog breeders, trainers, and they raise German Shepherd puppies, which I just happen to have a German Shepherd puppy hanging out right behind me. So when I saw this, I was just like intrigued, because The Art of Raising a Puppy, I have a puppy and there's a German Shepherd on it. So I was like, oh cool, I'll pick it up and look at it. And it's got pictures. This is obviously a nonfiction, all about how they raise their puppies and kind of training, and I don't know if there's any sorts of breeding information in here, but it's definitely from like literally the time they're born. It talks a little bit about the philosophy of the monks. They do or really practice positive reinforcement, which is the kind of training that I personally believe is the best kind of training for an animal. And so even though I have had puppies in the past, I've had my own dogs, I've raised dogs before, I've always had dogs my whole life. Never had a shepherd before, and it's been, I would say, about 12 years since I had a puppy in my life. So it had been a very long time. And, you know, you can always use a refresher plus any knowledge. Like, I'm all about nonfiction. The last book that I picked up, well, it's more like a little comic, was literally $1. And I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. And that's Legends of the World's Finest by Walter Sampson and Daniel Burton. And it's just a Batman, or it's just a DC comic. I think it might be kind of like Batman versus Superman. I'm not exactly sure, but you can kind of see there's the comic style here. I'm a huge DC fan. I'm a huge Batman fan. Batman is my all-time favorite hero ever. The back just says, the monster is a dream, a familiar story of violence, tragedy, and loss. Tonight, the venue is a little different. Literally no idea what this comic is about, but Batman, Superman, DC, I'll take it. For $1? Heck yeah, I'll take it. Okay, those are all the books from Half Price Books that my boyfriend bought me for my birthday. So that's like birthday haul. Now the rest of the books. Let's go ahead and continue with my nonfiction, since I was just kind of talking about that. I do have a few nonfiction books here that I picked up. I love nonfiction. I really need to get reading it more. So the first one we have, and this one I'm not exactly sure how or if I agree with it or not. So first off, I'm a huge animal lover, a gigantic animal lover. Animals are my life. If it wasn't for my illness, I would have gone to school to be a veterinarian, like work on livestock and exotics and all that kind of stuff. So I love all animals, but I am not a vegetarian. I do eat meat. So I don't know how much this book I will necessarily agree or disagree with it or find it. I don't know. We'll see, but it's always good to broaden your horizons. And that book would be Do Animals Have Rights? And this is by Allison Hills. I did look up on Goodreads. It doesn't have very good reviews. So I'm kind of like, wee-oo. It's written in 2005, I believe, is what it said. Yeah, it's in 2005, so it's quite old. I don't know. It just says in the superbly accessible book, Allison Hills carefully examines the arguments for both sides and defends the practical ethics of animals, distinguishing ways in which animals are equals and from ways in which animals are equals from which they are not. The animal rights arguments arise the deepest questions of all. In deciding how we should treat animals, we need to not only reflect on the value of animals, but also on what it is to be human, on the value of human life. So it definitely just sounds interesting. I really do kind of like to know about that kind of thing. The next one is, it just seemed like I think it's a memoir of sorts. It just seemed like a really, really fun book. And that would be Little Heathens, Hard Times and High Spirits on an Iowa Farm During the Great Depression by Mildred Armstrong Kalish. This is about a woman's story of growing up on her grandparents' Iowa farm during the Great Depression. And my boyfriend's a farmer. He grew up on a farm. I've always wanted to live on a farm, a ranch, my whole life. That's like my dream, is to live out in the middle of nowhere on a ranch, farm, grow my own food, have lots of animals. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh my gosh, that is super cool. Plus, look at the cute little cover. So it just seems like a fun book that talks about just this woman's experience of her and her siblings growing up in Iowa in the Great Depression on a farm, and kind of, so there's like some pictures and things. And I know that my boyfriend's grandpa actually grew up on a farm during the Great Depression. He was from Nebraska though. Yeah, I just thought this would be really interesting. I love farm life. So to kind of hear more about it is pretty cool, I think. Sorry if the angle changed or anything. I had to take the dog to go outside, and now he is eating his food. So again, if you hear weird licky noise in the background, I'm so sorry, but gotta keep the puppy occupied somehow. The next book that I have to talk about is called The Soul of an Octopus. And this is by Cy Montgomery, and basically it just says a surprising exploration into the wonder of consciousness, and it's all about octopi. Octopuses? I think it's octopi. Basically, because octopi are incredibly intelligent animals. Montgomery also chronicles scientists' growing appreciation of the octopus's problem solving as she tells a love story. By turns funny, entertaining, touching, and profound, The Soul of an Octopus reveals what octopi can teach us about the meaning of two very different minds. And it's the beginning part, it says that she explores the emotional and physical world of the octopus and the different people that live and work with them, both in community and scientists and all that. And I am all about that. I think these animals are fascinating. So when I saw this one, I was like, that is so cool. So I went ahead and picked this one up. This next book is Thoreau's Animals, or Thoreau. I do not know how to pronounce that man's name. I am so sorry. I don't know. Anyways, this is by Henry David Thoreau, and I guess he was a naturalist. I don't know like really much about him other than this looked amazing, and it has beautiful illustrations. So this book is apparently just excerpts of his personal journal of when he would study wildlife. So it's edited by Geoff. Is it Joff or Jeff? I think it might be Jeff Weinzer, and illustrated by Debbie Porter Casparari. And this says, from Thoreau's renowned journal, a treasury of memorable, funny, and sharply observed accounts of the wild and domestic animals of Concord. He penned his journal entries with an accuracy of a scientist and the deep spirituality of a transcendentalist and mystic. Have like May 3rd, 1857, and then beautiful illustrations, and then September 15th, 1859. So obviously from the 1800s. And it has, at the back, it has a bunch of references and all that kind of thing. So like I said, I don't really know much about this man. Maybe I should. Maybe he's like super popular, but I don't know. I just saw this and with like the illustration, if I can get, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to like get my thing to focus. The illustration is just beautiful, and I don't know, just the observations from the 1800s. I think it's so cool. It's so fun just to read someone's naturalist journal. So that's why I picked this book up. Next up on the list is My Animals and Other Family by Claire Balding. And this book is, can we get it to focus? This is a nonfiction book about this woman growing up as a kid who was surrounded by animals. Her father was a thoroughbred trainer or racehorse trainer. So she grew up with it says hundreds of thoroughbreds around horses, boxer dogs. The inside is super pretty, the end pages, and then I believe there are pictures. And so she just kind of tells her story of growing up in, I believe this is in England. Yeah, from Hampshire. It says she is from Hampshire Downs. My Animals and Other Family is a funny, brave, tender story of self-discovery. So anything that has to do with growing up with animals and being surrounded by animals, you know, I just think is fascinating. And that kind of stuff is just so fascinating to me. Like, I just love it. So I went ahead and picked this one up when I saw it because I couldn't pass it up. Into the Water by Pamela Hawkins. This is the woman who wrote Girl on the Train, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I don't really know what this one is about. Secrets can pull you under. A single mother turns up dead at the bottom of a river that runs through town. Earlier in the summer, a teenage girl met the same fate. They are not the first women lost to these dark waters, but their deaths drag up secrets long submerged. And that's all I want to know, because I don't like to know a whole lot about my thrillers. But since I really love Girl on the Train, I figured I would give her other novel a try. After that, we have a book that I already own, but I saw this beautiful edition and I couldn't pass that up. And that is House by Frank Freddy and Ted Decker. And this is a exclusive first printing signature edition. It's this beautiful silver. Let me go grab the original so you can see the difference. So here is what my copy looks like, and here is the special signed edition. So these authors are two of my favorite authors of all time, and when I saw this beautiful edition, I was like, shoot, I'm not gonna pass it up because it's so pretty. I like it, so I got it. Telltale Corpse, or The Telltale Corpse, an Edgar Allan Poe mystery, and this is written by Harold Schechter. I'm so bad with names, y'all, so bad. This one I think actually might be part of a series, and I don't know if it's like one of those that like you can read each book individually or if you have to read them all together. So I don't believe this is the first one in the series. But this is basically a reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe. He is my favorite favorite poet. I love Edgar Allan Poe. The Telltale Heart is one of my favorite poems by him, or short stories by him, I guess you could say. And the Telltale, yeah, because this is a Telltale Corpse, since the Telltale Heart obviously is what it's based on. It's definitely part of a series basically where I guess Edgar Allan Poe is a detective, and how cool is that? Especially if you love Poe, and I do. So I'm definitely going to have to look and see about getting, you know, the first book in the series so I can go ahead and make sure that I'm reading them in order. Because even if you don't have to read in order, I still have this thing where I'm like, I have to read in order. It's a thing. The next book I picked up is The Creeping, and this is by Alexandra Surraway. This is about a young girl named Stella. It says she was the lucky one. When she was a kid, Stella and her friend Jamie vanished into the woods. Stella came back with no memories of what happened. Jeannie never did. And this is like years later, and she's trying to like put it out of her mind, forget about it, move on with her life. And years later, a fresh corpse of a little girl is found with eerie similarities to Jeannie, and Stella's memories start coming back in fits and starts. As Stella starts to uncover the truth about the day Jeannie vanished, she discovers a breadcrumb trail of horror going back generations. And so that just sounded really fascinating to me. I think I heard other people talk about this on book too, but I could be wrong. But I could have sworn that I heard someone else talking about this book recently. Yeah, there's that one. Okay, and the next one, I had to get it because I have kind of, I guess, the companion novel, and I loved it. And that's Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters by Jane Austen and Ben H. Winters. I've actually never read Sense and Sensibility. That's one I will have to pick up. But I mean, come on, how could I not get this? And it has illustrations, which is quite funny. But I literally don't know anything about this other than the fact that it's a play on Sense and Sensibility, which again, I've never read. So I don't really know much about that book either. And the fact that it has sea monsters. So this one I think is gonna be a pretty fun read. The next book that I picked up is Yours Truly, Jack the Ripper by Pamela West. And this basically takes place 100 years after the Jack the Ripper killings. Jack the Ripper started, or the killings happened in 1888, and this takes place in 1988, the year I was born actually. And it's the 100th anniversary of one of the world's most extraordinary and perhaps unsolved series of murders. And it's about a inspector, so it takes place in Europe and England, and he receives a gift of a journal, and then he goes on to have gruesome murders that happen around the city that are pretty reminiscent of Jack the Ripper, but 100 years later. So it's kind of a little bit of a story of this inspector trying to figure out what the heck is happening. Found this one and I was super excited when I found it. And that would be Writer's Digest, Annotated Classics, Dracula by Bram Stoker, and annotations by Mort Castle. So it's basically, like it says, an annotated copy of Dracula. And I know I saw another booktuber, I can't remember her name, I will put her name across the screen in the comments. She was doing a Jane Eyre read along, or kind of a reading journey for herself, and she picked up a book that was just like this one, but of Jane Eyre. And it was really interesting. And so then when I saw this, I was like, I have to, sorry if the dog is going crazy in the background, but I had to pick this one up because I really, really like Dracula. And I saw this one there. Yeah, see, here's the one I'm talking about, Jane Eyre. So I saw it there, and then, you know, of course, it's like annotated and goes deeper into the story and the author and kind of all that kind of stuff. And I have a really difficult time with classics. I think a lot of it's just the language used in kind of the time period. I don't really understand it well. So to have an annotated copy of this book is really exciting to me, and I plan to eventually get in and study this story. The next book I picked up is The 49th Mystic by Ted Dekker, and this is book 1 in his new duology. I think it's not like new, it came out a couple of years ago, but it's one of his newer stories, and it basically takes place after the Circle trilogy, which is a amazing trilogy that he wrote that I love it so much. This is kind of a continuation of, so yeah, this is like many years later after the events, and I don't really know too much about it other than it's part of that series, and that's all I need to know because I love his writing. Like I said, he's one of my favorite authors, and to continue to be in the same world as one of my favorite series, I couldn't pass it up. And to be able to find it at half price books, like hello, a brand new basically hardcover book, I was like stoked. I was so stoked. So the next 2 books are part of a series. I think it's book 1 and book 3. So I need to make sure that I find book 2. And that would be Deadly Sanctuary and Dark Moon Crossing by Silvia Noble. And these are a Kindle Odell mystery. I don't really know much about this other than it's a mystery. There's a reporter that gets drawn into conspiracy when the body of the 3rd girl is discovered in the desert not far from a private psychiatric hospital. Kindle's life hangs in the balance as she strives to uncover the horrifying secret, and Kendall is the reporter. So it just sounded pretty interesting. I like mysteries, and I went ahead and got this one, and since there was 2, I picked them up, but then I realized I think this is 1 and this is 3. So if I like it, I'll have to get book 2 and then continue on with the series. Hi guys, editing me here. I have more to this video, but for whatever reason, I can't get the video to upload from my phone to my computer. I don't know what's going on with it. It just will not upload. I have no idea. I don't know if it's the new phone or what, but I was looking at it and it is quite long anyways. And since this video is already long, I'm just gonna cut it off here. And I will go ahead and say goodbye, and I will add all the rest. I'll just refilm the rest of my haul and post it as a separate video because, like I said, this one's already long and I'm trying to keep my videos shorter. So thanks for watching, guys, and be on the lookout for the other one. I should be posting that within hopefully the next day or 2, fingers crossed. Well, let's just say within the week. It'll be posted within the week of this video going up. So thanks for watching, guys. See you later.